Hello and welcome to this edition of the Policy Bazaar show here on Republic TV. Joining me today is Yashish Dhaya, who's the co-founder and group CEO at PolicyBazaar.com. He's been a pioneer in the field of insurance, over a decade of experience, and has actually powered the digital movement as far as insurance in India is concerned. Yashish, great talking to you as always. There's lots to talk about with him today as we all grapple with the crisis that has come upon us through COVID-19. We talk in very difficult times, and I do hope this gets behind us very quickly. But crisis of this kind perhaps makes people more aware and think, at least in terms of protecting both their life as well as their health. Is that behaviorally something that you are seeing on your various engines that are working at full shift at this point, as I understand?
Yes, we are. See, at this point, people have a lot of things on their mind. People clearly have their safety, their health in mind. They have their basic necessities in mind. The mind has gone off from a lot of activities. So, for example, we are seeing car insurance and two-wheeler insurance uh, down to about half the number of inquiries, especially two-wheeler. Maybe car insurance, more like 70-80% of the inquiries that were there before. But health insurance and life insurance have seen an uptick. Uh, Very surprisingly, though, even investment products have seen an uptick, which was very strange to me. But we are still clearly seeing that as well.
I believe from whatever reports that we are getting, Yashish, that April so far this year seems to be a cracker of a month for insurance sales. I'm not talking from a business point of view here. I'm just trying to understand if people are finally beginning to understand the value of insurance. I believe that insurance companies are seeing over a 30% kind of a uptick on insurance product sales of certain kinds. Of course, you mentioned motor may not be one of them, but as far as term life insurance is concerned or health insurance is concerned, are you seeing a significant uptick?
Absolutely, we are seeing a big uptick. So you are seeing us a lot more on the in terms of the communication to consumers around both health insurance and life insurance, and people are at home, so people do have a little more time to themselves, and that allows them the time to research these products. So I think there are multiple factors playing out, and we are seeing relationships from all aspects. I do not know if the broad life insurance and health insurance industry is growing, because there are a lot of channels which are going to find it very hard to fulfill at this stage. But on the digital side, clearly we are seeing a 30 to 40% growth.
Yashish, while you've been a digital first company, but and you've worked very closely with insurance companies in even building and rolling out products with them, I'm talking about the life insurance companies. For them, digital has not been a very significant part. But now that we are all in lockdown and the only way to transact or purchase insurance is online, how are you working closely with them to see that they can push online as the preferred, in fact, actually the only option now?
So see, instead of online, I would call it remote, in the sense people are not comfortable at this stage even doing things like medicals, because imagine going to a hospital to get a medical test done, especially when you don't have too much to declare or any pre-existing disease. It's a pretty cumbersome task. If you are aged and if you have a pre-existing disease, it's even dangerous, I would say, to go to a hospital to get a medical done. Somebody coming to your house to do a medical test, again, is very difficult in these times, although there are some resources being put around that. So there's a lot of work that we are doing with insurance companies on telemedicals. There's a lot of work that's happening on video medicals. There's a lot of work that's happening on wearables-based medicals. Essentially kits that can be sent to people so they can do self medicals. So there are lots of efforts going on with insurers in making sure all of this can be fulfilled without the physical need of a customer going to a hospital or somebody coming to their house to do a medical. And the second thing we are working very hard, which we had worked very hard on in the past, has been video-based inspections of cars and two-wheelers. And that is almost 90% of all inspections that need to happen now happen remotely for us. So I think both of these are really helping speed up the entire, end-to-end digital delivery of insurance. Uh, in fact, up to 1 lakh rupee claims also in in four-wheelers, we are able to settle with the insurance company's help without any need for physical inspection for many companies. So I think it's interesting. A lot of work is going on with the insurance companies and moving. And what you say is absolutely right. For the life insurers, this was a very small fraction of their business. Maybe between 2 to 5% of their business, but now it's a much larger percentage, and hence there's a lot more effort and a lot more sincerity towards making sure all the pieces fall in place.
Yashish, can you elaborate a bit on the telemedical piece that you just talked about? Because if you look at the end-to-end chain of buying insurance, this was probably one which needed a physical interface, isn't it? That you had to go to a
Yeah.
lab
So in
to get your medicals done.
in almost all the health insurance we sell now, where people come and look for a health insurance and they decide which company they want to buy and they purchase a health insurance, in almost all of it, all transactions are now happening, or I would say more than 95% of transactions are happening without the need for any medical whatsoever. What happens is a doctor comes online and he speaks to you and he asks you the relevant questions. You answer the relevant questions. If they have need for any past tests or past papers, they take it over a video. There is a liveliness test done, which makes sure you are the person you are, and you are very much not just alive, but also there's a likeness to your IDs, and you are well. So there's lots of ways that is done because clearly there's a much higher payout and also a much bigger event in case it happens. And there, what we are working with insurance companies is, of course, these first two, but then video-based medicals, as well as kits and wearables, so that you send a blood test kit to somebody so that they can administer it themselves, or through some training they can administer it to themselves, or they use some wearables to test their heart rate under stress conditions like a TMT kind of situation. It starts to give you directionally uh, the data that you need to conduct a medical. Like, for example, I have a fitness coach, right? So I send him a lot of data and he knows a lot about me, about, how much I sleep, how much what my heart rate is, at what stress levels it increases, various pieces of data he gets without ever meeting me. So the same data can be transmitted in this manner as well. And that is usually sufficient to underwrite a policy. Plus, you have past records of people, those who have had. But yes, in certain cases, medicals are necessary and still unavoidable. We're trying to bridge that gap as well.
Do you see this as the new normal, even once this crisis is behind us? Because if you look at it from a consumer standpoint, this was one of the roadblocks, isn't it? Because many people felt that, oh my God, I need to go to a lab, get my checkups done, etc., etc. Do you feel that this is a trend that could continue even once this lockdown and the crisis, as I said, is behind us?
See, I see this particular crisis leading to behavioral changes. Uh, Suddenly, people are aware that you need social distancing, and I think this is even after the controls, are gone, and even after the epidemic is over. I think for at least 12 to 15 months, this social distancing will last because people will not be very comfortable uh, just meeting anybody, especially people they do not know very well from very close quarters. And I think going to hospitals will be fraught with risk still, at least even if not factually, at least psychologically. Uh, and from that perspective, people will want to, take on things like DIY medicals or telemedicals or video medicals. And from whatever data we have seen so far, and we see a lot of data, telemedicals and video medicals almost get you everything that you need. On top of that, in insurance, eventually you rely on declarations. So, and the declarations are meant to be made in good faith. And if those declarations are false, then a case can always be denied later on as well if the declarations are found to be blatantly false, right? Uh, so I think there is a lot of protection that is there for insurance companies as well as consumers, which can happen through the telemedical process. the quality of the interaction is far superior because it's recorded. Remember, if it's recorded, that means it's available to both parties, and that means all those declarations are also recorded. Whereas, so I think there's a lot of advantages to the process, which can be brought to bear on the entire, and I think it's going to last well beyond just COVID-19.
We take a short break here on the Policy Bazaar show, but when I come back, I speak to Yashish about health insurance and how much cover do you really need. That's coming up just after this short break. Welcome to this edition of the Policy Bazaar show. Joining me today is Yashish Dhaya, who's the co-founder and group CEO at PolicyBazaar.com. Would you say the onboarding of customers is something which was already fully online, or has COVID-19 enabled certain new systems that insurers have been able to put in to get a customer onboarded without a physical interface or submission physically of documents?
See, we never had any physical presence. For the last 12 years, we've never had physical presence. So we have one office based out of Gurgaon and now one out of Bombay. And we don't have anybody coming and meeting anyone ever. And we have been conducting business, and not just conducting business, but doing millions of policies, right? Millions and millions of policies. So clearly the processes were there to be able to conduct business fully online. I think the only thing that was missing was some of these pieces around telemedicals and video-based medicals and wearable devices for medicals and video-based claims management. So a lot of this was this. Even in life insurance, you need it, right? There were cases where people were filling forms, but they might already be in a bad condition. But if I have a video of you with your KYC, I can see you, I can talk to you, I can pretty much decipher if you're in a pretty bad condition or not. And on top of that, if you are blatantly saying you don't have a disease but you actually have it, then of course you will not get the claim. There is no denying that, right? So I think blatant lying will not get you the claim.
About the claim settlement piece, can you elaborate a little, Yashish, on that front? What is happening? Will it be seamlessly online, digital?
Yeah, so we haven't been able to make much headwind on the health insurance side, although there is some work we've done there. But on the motor insurance side, what typically happens is for certain companies, if you have a claim of up to 1 lakh rupees, you basically submit a video of your vehicle, and basis the video, you're given an assessment of what your claim is going to cost. And this assessment actually comes from 5-6 garages near you. If you have certain depreciation, etc., and you need to pay a component, you'll be informed upfront that this is the component you need to pay. And if you're comfortable, you can go ahead with that process, with the video-based process. Roughly about 60% of claims for those companies that have opted for this are going through this process. See, in every stage, whether it was onboarding, whether it was amendments, endorsements, financial endorsements, non-financial endorsements, or whether it was claims, there was a physical leg and there was, if you would call an electronic leg or a non-face-to-face leg. And the non-face-to-face part has been growing. So, we are in effect like a marketplace, right? So if half the companies provide this and half of our suppliers have it, and we can provide it to our customers in half the cases. But that's where we are, and one by one, companies are coming more and more online. So 86% of endorsements happen fully online now.
Let's talk a little about health insurance, Yashish. We see a lot of COVID-specific policies hitting the market with very low premiums, but also the sum assured is, in a few thousands. My first question to you, which a lot of consumers would want to know, that if I already have a health insurance cover, is my hospitalization with regard to COVID-19 going to be covered?
The IRDAI has clarified your claim will be honored, including COVID. There is no change in that statement, and that is crystal clear. COVID claims, at least the ones that I have seen, are a lot higher than I thought they would be. In every case, that is where the cost has come out to be, where the insurance had to settle the claim.
Yashish, when you talk of a basic health cover that everybody should opt for, what is the amount of cover that a person should be looking for? A lot of young people out there listening to you, easier to get a health cover when you're younger. what is the right amount that one should look at?
See, as I mentioned, when I looked at COVID cases, and we keep receiving data from insurance companies, the data came in that COVID cases were costing 4.5 lakh rupees in the city, and I think what we work with companies in creating is a 1 crore cover, and it costs about 800 rupees a month. That's 800 rupees a month for somebody who's about 35 years old. That's not expensive. And yes, people have started taking these covers. Roughly 30% of the people are now buying these covers. And I think more and more people should buy these.
What about term insurance? What, according to you, is the right amount of premium there that people should look at? A lot of the communication moves around 1 crore as the ideal amount, but do you think that is something which is too less, should be much more? Because after all, it's about you leaving behind an entire family.
You should take roughly 20 times your income. I'm giving it in a very simple manner. You can, of course, be a little more complicated about it. Roughly 20 times income. And why do I say that? If you have 20 times your income, your family gets 20 times your annual income. And what that means is they can put that money in a fixed deposit and get about 7% return on it. So that's a rule of thumb one can use, about 20% income. Somebody who's earning about 10 lakh rupees is, let's say, 35-year-old and takes a cover of 2 crore rupees. It'll probably cost them about 1,500 rupees a month. When you look at 1,500 rupees a month, and you look at 10 lakhs, that is, a very small fraction of their income, and they can easily afford it.
My final question to you, Ashish, what is the kind of impact you see on the insurance industry owing to COVID? I mean, yes, right now we are seeing higher policies being sold. You've talked about the shift to digital. From a pure, disruption point of view as an industry, how do you see the insurance sector grappling with this lockdown, prolonged lockdown, and COVID-19?
It will grow the pure term insurance and health insurance component of the business rather than the investment component of the business. Number two, as an industry, we will become more pull, less push, because clearly the customer will have to somewhere do this remotely. So the ability to walk into somebody's house and say, buy insurance, buy insurance, buy insurance, or walk into an office and say, buy insurance from me, will definitely be reduced. So to an extent, it has to be, the customer has to come and buy. Settling claims will become the hallmark of the insurance industry. Medium to long term, good for the industry. Short term, I think it is going to be quite a bit of a disruption.
We leave it there. Thank you very much, Yashish. Great talking to you as always.
Thank you.
Wish you all the best, and speak to you soon.